Hello and welcome to my opinion archive. In today's video I'm going to talk about the TV series Timeless, specifically season 1 and my opinion of that TV series. This video is going to contain spoilers for Timeless season 1, so you've now been officially warned about that. I'm going to start by talking about some of the characters in the series and what I think about them. The first character I'm going to talk about is Lucy. She is the historian in the group, and that of course makes her very important in the show because it's about time travel and she knows all the things that are going to happen and the historical people who are going to be present. I think Lucy is a really great character. I like her because she is the morale of the group. She always tries to do what's right, and she has this inner struggle for all the things that are happening in the show because she's very focused on keeping things as they're supposed to be, making sure time doesn't change. And I really like that aspect to her, that she is this quote-unquote guardian of time. She's really trying to make sure that things happen as they are supposed to be. And this, of course, stems from her losing her own sister because of time changing. I also really liked her whole quest to get her sister back. Very interesting part of this show. We see her focusing about getting her sister back and trying to figure out what happened and how she can change history so she can get her sister back, and becoming very empathetic with Wyatt because he has a similar quest. And I also like the fact that she really starts to care about history because her own sister disappeared. So she has these very genuine and very great reactions when something happens and someone gets killed that wasn't supposed to get killed, because she doesn't want anyone else suddenly waking up without a person they were supposed to have by their side and not even remembering that person. Another thing I really think they did great in this show was the dilemma between Lucy and Flynn, him having this diary and really indicating that she's going to help him, but that she fundamentally disagrees with Flynn. It really makes for this interesting character arc where the audience in the back of their mind has this idea of, well, what if she decides to go with Flynn? But you also wonder, why would she ever go with Flynn? Because she fundamentally disagrees with him. I really like that dilemma that you sort of know it's almost predestined, but you also just can't see when or how or why it would even happen. Now I'm going to talk about the character of Rufus and what I find interesting about him and my general opinion of him in the series. I think Rufus was a very interesting character. I really liked his loyalty to Anthony, him insisting constantly that Anthony is a good guy and they should try to help him and stand up for Anthony, and how he reacts when he discovers Anthony isn't really a good guy. He voluntarily went with Garcia Flynn. I really like this part of his story, how he is this very loyal guy, but he gets betrayed, and how that affects him, how he in the end actually was right about Anthony all along. I also really liked his romance with Tia. I really hope I said that name correct. I really found it very interesting how it starts as a thing he doesn't really want her to know about, and how he gradually becomes more and more aware that his situation is very dangerous. So he gets himself together and decides to tell her that he likes her. I really found it a very interesting romantic relationship to see it develop, and I wouldn't say relatable, but a very understandable situation he's in, where he has this girl he really likes, but he doesn't really dare to talk to her or tell her that he likes her. But he knows that he does, and she also knows that he does. I really found it very lovely to see these characters develop. I really like that. I think it was a very great romance between them. As a character, I really liked Rufus for his growth, how he became more and more determined, and how he grew as a character to be this very strong character who takes action, because in the beginning he was their pilot, he was the tech guy. He didn't really want to be there, and he didn't really want to be a part of the action. But he eventually got used to it, but he grew and into becoming what I consider one of the most strongest characters in the entire show. I also really liked how he as a character started out as this spy for Rittenhouse, and the fact that he had a really hard time dealing with this. It was a very interesting part of his character to see him deal with this double life that he had to report to Rittenhouse and he had to protect his family, but he didn't want to betray his team. I really found that very interesting, and how he grows, and as he becomes more determined, also decides to put his foot down and say, Rittenhouse, I'm not going to do this. Unfortunately, that backfired, but I really liked seeing it, how he developed as this reluctant spy. And the last thing I would like to say about Rufus is that I really liked his presence in the series, that you get to see how he, as a man of color, got treated throughout the different historical periods and the different roles he would take throughout the different periods in time. I really liked that aspect of the series also, that they decided to include this and show this in the series. I think it was a very interesting thing to see and very important thing to show the viewers, so that you don't forget that this was reality for some people in the past. Now I'm going to talk about Wyatt. I really liked Wyatt as this leader of the group, that he was the one who helped them out when they didn't know what to do, that he was the one who took charge, and I really liked the differences between him and Lucy, that he was the I'm going to get the mission done, and not really caring too much about history, that he was more interested in stopping Garcia Flynn than preserving history. But despite this, he still decided to listen to Lucy from time to time when she told him that someone important was present and that they must not be killed. But he was still struggling with preserving history or capturing Garcia Flynn. I really like that aspect of his character. Another part of his character I found really great was his very relatable struggle with his wife's death, that she was dead and he had this opportunity to potentially save her with the use of the time machine. He really goes from being this guy who doesn't believe that there is a fate, that is a preordained thing that is supposed to happen, because why would he? He has seen this time machine. But in the end, despite his many attempts to try to stop his wife from getting killed, to try to save her, he decides that maybe she was supposed to die, maybe he can't do anything. I really like this development, his story arc, how he changes his view and the things he's willing to go through to save her. I especially liked the part where he went after the guy's parents, the guy who killed his wife. He tried to prevent his parents from meeting each other. I really like the fact that despite him knowing what's going to happen and hating the guy who kills his wife, he still regrets killing his father. I really like that he wasn't filled with anger and just went in and shot him at the first opportunity, but he actually tried to avoid killing him at all costs, and when it unfortunately happened, despite it not being his fault, he really regretted it. Really like that part of his character. The last thing I'm going to talk about with Wyatt is the obvious one. It is his relationship with Lucy. I really liked it. I liked how they were different. They had different ideas, different personalities, but they had a common mission, so to speak. He wanted to save his wife, and she wanted to get her sister back. I really liked the dynamic between two characters and how it developed. and how he started as a person who really annoyed her, but they ended up really liking each other in the end, and they ended up supporting each other a lot throughout the series. Now I'm going to talk about Garcia Flynn and my thoughts about him. I really like how he, in the beginning of the show, starts out as this really obvious bad guy. I mean, he tries to destroy important events in American history. You really don't sympathize too much with him. You really don't like him, and so does the team. They really don't like him. But it turns out that he's actually fighting this greater evil. He isn't just some madman who wants to destroy America, and what he's doing actually has a greater purpose, even if it leads to a completely different American than the one he knows. I also liked how they very quickly established this connection between him and Lucy. You really quickly got this understanding there was more going on than you were led to believe. He very quickly takes contact with her and tells her about the diary he has, which is her diary from the future. And he very quickly makes the very interesting mystery about him. Who is he? How did he get this? And why would Lucy work with him? What is his greater goal? And he really alludes to this fact that there is a greater goal. It's of course very hard to see a justification for the things he is doing. So it makes a very interesting character about him. I also liked how they gave him a very sympathetic background. So he could become one of the good guys, and it sort of makes sense. His family was killed by a Rittenhouse, so it's a very interesting motivation, a very relatable motivation for him wanting to destroy them, and him realizing how evil they are and how embedded in American history they are. He decides that the only way to destroy them would be to change American history. I really liked that part of his character, that he actually has a noble goal, but he really goes perhaps too far to achieve it. I also like the fact that he, of course, wants his family back, but he actually feels a lot of guilt about what he has done. So he decides to leave them when they come back, when he has saved them and changed time, because he knows that he wouldn't be able to live with them and be happy with all the things you've had to do in order for them to come back. That's a very interesting part of his character, that he isn't just going to forget all that he's done. He's not going to just settle down with his family and pretend nothing happened. He just wants them to be alive, even if he can't be with them anymore. I think it's very sympathetic, and you really feel sorry for him, despite all the things you've done. Now I'm quickly going to mention a few things about Connor Mason, because I don't really have much to say about him, but I do have some points I'd like to talk about. I really like how he starts out by being this bad guy. He's one of the bad guys. Very quickly get this feeling from him, but he's still extremely loyal to Rufus, and he really cares about him, and he really doesn't want to hurt him. He doesn't want Rittenhouse to hurt him, and he actually stands up for him. I like how Connor Mason in the end actually changes his mind and decides to go against Rittenhouse and help people. He's not just a bad guy who was manipulating Rufus and saying he was loyal. He's actually a man who's really loyal, and that is what makes him a very great character, because he's not just this bad guy underling. He has his own person, and he has his own goals, and he's willing to switch sides to achieve them. It's not done in a way where he only changed the side because now Rittenhouse was losing. No, he actually did it to do something good. I really like that part of his character. Now I'm going to tell you my thoughts about the main bad villain in this, which is Rittenhouse. I find the concept interesting. I always liked the concept of this great secret organization that controls things, and especially if the organization has existed for a very long time, but it is not a new idea. It's a very common trope, but I find it interesting nevertheless. I especially really liked the twist that Lucy's mother was a part of Rittenhouse all along, even though it sort of makes sense that she would be when you think about it. But for me it was a great shock, because I was like, wait, what? But when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a very great twist. Now that I've given you my opinion of the characters in the show, I'm going to give you my opinion about the show itself. Now, I am a very, very big fan of time travel shows. I really like them, so just because of that, I just like this show. But I'm still going to give you some reasons as to why I do that. I really like time travel shows, and this show also specifically because, well, it shows historical events, like Abraham Lincoln's assassination, or the Battle of Alamo. I've always liked learning about these historical events through these TV shows. But one thing I think Timeless does really well is that it goes into the impact of these historical events. Many times in the show you will hear Lucy describe a character who was in this historical event and what the person is going to do later in history. Or she's going to talk about how in this particular part of history, this particular event, a lot of very important historical figures are gathered as one place. So if someone attacked this meeting or this place, a lot of things were going to change. I really like seeing that, hearing about how these historical events changed characters and how things could have been very different if something had happened differently in the history. I also like how the show shows some not as known characters, at least not to me, but I'm not American, so they might be very well known by American viewers, but to me they weren't. For instance, Katherine Johnson, who helped with the space program. I did not know about her before this show, and I really like that they decide to show these lesser known characters and tell you about them as well. So that it isn't just the well-known historical figures who get explored, but you get to see different sides of history and meet different characters you might not know also were important. A very particular historical event I really liked the fact they show was the murder hotel. This is not as well-known historical fact. And I knew about it before the show, and I was really excited when I heard that it was in the show. And I think it's really great that they decide to include it so you get other historical events and historical things that you might not know exist be presented to you in a way that makes sense and is very interesting. The last thing I'm going to talk about is a fact that I really like in this show, which I think it does very differently to other time travel shows. That's the fact that it isn't afraid to let the characters, quote-unquote, fail and let history get changed. So we can see what impact the different event had when we see how they changed history because something didn't happen the way it was supposed to. I really like that, even if the changes doesn't really have a big impact. Like we don't see America potentially being taken over by Nazis and stuff like that, but I really like the fact that we see the small things. We see that if someone else did it or if someone else died, things are going to change. I really like that they didn't just make the show be like, alright, Garcia Flynn changes something and they go in and stop it every single time. No, they actually fail, and sometimes things get changed because of it. I really like that aspect of the show. Thank you for watching this video. As always, this has been my opinion archive. I hope you found the video interesting and you will consider subscribing. If you've seen Timeless, then let me know your opinion of the show in the comments down below.